Park was not a special man. He knew this about himself, and he had made peace with it a long time ago. He was 34 years old. He worked as a logistics officer on a cargo ship called the. His job was simple. He counted boxes. He checked lists. He made sure that food and supplies reached the right places at the right times. It was boring work, but liked boring. Boring meant safe. Boring meant predictable. Boring meant he could sleep at night without worrying about anything. There was an old ship. It creaked when it moved through space. The lights flickered sometimes. The coffee machine in the break room had been broken for 3 years, and nobody had bothered to fix it, but did not mind. He had his small room with his small bed and his small collection of old books. He had his routine. Wake up, check the cargo, eat breakfast, check the cargo again, eat lunch, do paperwork, eat dinner, read a book, sleep. Every day was the same, and liked it that way. He had been on for 12 years. In all that time, nothing exciting had ever happened to him. Other crew members had stories. They talked about space pirates and strange planets and alien encounters. Had no stories. The most exciting thing that had ever happened to him was finding a box of supplies that had been labeled wrong. He had fixed the label. That was his adventure. So when the alien ship appeared next to the, assumed it had nothing to do with him. The ship was beautiful in a terrifying way. It was silver and smooth, shaped like a teardrop made of liquid metal. It was bigger than but it moved without making any sound. One moment the space outside the window was empty. The next moment the ship was there, as if it had always existed in that spot. Captain Sara called an emergency meeting. She was a tough woman with short gray hair and eyes that had seen too many things. She never smiled and she never panicked. But when she walked into the meeting room, saw something in her face that he had never seen before. She looked confused. "We have received a message," she said. Her voice was calm, but her hands were not. They gripped the edge of the table too tightly. "The ship outside belongs to the Dominion." The room went silent. Everyone knew about they were the oldest and most powerful species in the known universe. Their empire covered 3 galaxies. Their technology was so advanced that humans could not even understand how it worked. They had been traveling through space when humans were still living in caves. Meeting was like a mouse meeting a god. "They have sent a formal request," Captain Sara continued. "They want one of our crew members to come aboard their ship. They want this person to travel to their throne world and meet their queen." Felt sorry for whoever had been chosen. Meeting the queen sounded terrifying. He hoped it was someone brave, someone important, someone who knew how to talk to powerful beings without embarrassing all of humanity. "The crew member they have requested," Captain Sara said, "is Lieutenant Park." Laughed. It was a nervous laugh, the kind that comes out when you hear something so ridiculous that your brain cannot process it. Everyone in the room turned to look at him. Nobody else was laughing. "That is a joke," said. "That must be a joke." "It is not a joke." Captain Sara pulled out and showed it to him. The message was there, written in perfect human language. It listed his full name, his service number, his date of birth, his blood type. It even listed the name of his mother back on Earth. "They know everything about you. They asked for you by name. Only you." "But I am nobody," said. His voice sounded strange to his own ears. "I count boxes, I check lists. Why would the Queen want to meet someone who counts boxes?" "I do not know," Captain Sara said. "But we have been given coordinates to their throne world. We are ordered to deliver you within 6 days." "Ordered? Can they order us?" Captain Sara looked at him with tired eyes. "They can do whatever they want. We are humans. We do not say no to them." That night could not sleep. He lay in his small bed in his small room and stared at the ceiling. His mind kept spinning in circles, trying to find an explanation that made sense. Maybe there was another Park somewhere. Maybe the had made a mistake. Maybe this was all a strange dream and he would wake up tomorrow to his normal, boring life. But deep down, he knew it was real. The message had been too detailed, too specific. They knew things about him that even his did not know. They had chosen him on purpose. They wanted him, specifically him, for some reason that he could not understand. He thought about his life. 12 years on the 12 years of counting boxes and checking lists. He had never done anything important. He had never saved anyone. He had never discovered anything. He had just existed, quietly and unremarkably, doing his small job in his small corner of the universe. Why would the most powerful being in existence want to meet someone like him? Closed his eyes and tried to sleep, but sleep did not come. Outside his window, the ship floated in the darkness, waiting for him, and somewhere across the stars, a queen was waiting too. He did not know why, but he was about to find out. The journey to the throne world took 6 days. Spent most of that time alone in his room thinking. He tried to eat, but food tasted like nothing. He tried to read, but the words made no sense. His mind kept returning to the same question over and over again. Why me? Why me? Why me? His treated him differently now. They looked at him with a mixture of curiosity and fear, as if he had become a stranger overnight. Some of them tried to talk to him, to offer comfort or advice. But what could they say? Nobody knew what was happening. Nobody understood why a simple logistics officer had been summoned by the ruler of the most powerful empire in the universe. On the 6th day, they arrived at the throne world. Stood at the observation window and looked at the planet below. He had seen many worlds in his 12 years of space travel. He had seen ice planets and desert planets and planets covered entirely in water. But he had never seen anything like this. The throne world was impossible. That was the only word for it. Cities floated in the air, connected by bridges made of pure light. Mountains hung upside down from the sky. Rivers flowed in spirals, defying gravity, defying logic, defying everything new about how the universe was supposed to work. The colors were wrong too. The sky shifted between shades that had no names, colors that human eyes were not designed to see. Beautiful, is it not? Captain Sora stood beside him. Her voice was quiet. They say they built this world 11 million years ago. They shaped it with their minds. Every mountain, every river, every floating city. They imagined it and it became real. Could not speak, he just stared. A small shuttle came to collect him. 4 guards stood inside, waiting. They were tall, much taller than any human. Their skin was the color of pearls, shifting between white and silver and pale blue as they moved. They had 6 eyes each, arranged in a circle around their heads like a crown. The eyes never blinked. They never looked away. The guards did not speak to. They simply gestured for him to follow, and he followed. What else could he do? The shuttle descended through clouds that sparkled with electricity. It passed through the floating cities, past towers of crystal and gardens that grew in midair, saw others going about their lives, walking on streets that hung suspended over nothing. They did not look at the shuttle. They did not seem to notice it at all. Finally, the shuttle landed at the base of a structure so large that could not see its edges. It was a palace, or a temple, or something that was both and neither. The walls were made of living metal, silver and gold flowing together like liquid. Veins of light pulsed through the surface, beating like a heart. The guards led through corridors that seemed to stretch forever. The ceiling was so high that it disappeared into darkness. The floor was warm beneath his feet, as if the building itself was alive. And maybe it was. With the anything was possible. At last they reached the throne room. It was the largest room had ever seen. It could have held 1,000 inside it with room to spare. The walls glowed with soft light, and the air smelled like rain and flowers and something else, something ancient and strange that could not name. At the center of the room, on a throne made of crystallized starlight, sat Queen. She was smaller than had expected, almost human-sized, though nothing about her was human. Her form kept shifting, like a reflection in moving water. Sometimes she had 2 arms, sometimes 4, sometimes none. Her face changed constantly, beautiful and terrible and sad all at once, and her eyes were everywhere and nowhere, appearing and disappearing across her body like stars blinking in and out of existence. When she spoke, her voice came from all directions at once. It was inside his head and outside his head. It was soft and loud. It was one voice and 1,000 voices. "Park of Earth," she said, "you have traveled far. You have come to a place where no human has ever stood, and you do not know why." It was not a question. She already knew the answer, but nodded anyway. "I do not know, Your Majesty," he said. His voice sounded small and thin in the vast room. "I am just a cargo officer. I count boxes, I check lists. I am nobody special." The Queen was silent for a long moment. Her form rippled, and for just a second thought he saw something like sadness in those shifting features. 16 cycles ago," she said, "your ship passed through a region of space called the Nebula. Do you remember?" Thought back, the Nebula, a routine stop. They had rerouted around some debris, collected water from an ice asteroid, dumped some waste containers. Nothing special, nothing important. "I remember," he said, "but nothing happened there. It was just a normal stop." "Something happened," the Queen said. "Something that will change everything, and you, Park, are the reason it happened." Her eyes fixed on him, all of them at once, and felt the weight of 11 million years pressing down on his shoulders. "Let me tell you a story," the Queen said. "A story about death and hope and the strange miracle of imperfection." Listened, and what he heard would change his life forever. The Queen began her story, and listened with growing disbelief. They were dying. Not quickly. Their lives stretched across thousands and thousands of years. A single could watch stars be born and die and be born again. But even so, they were dying. Slowly, quietly, inevitably. 100,000 years ago, the Queen said, we noticed something wrong with our children. They were born healthy. They grew strong. But something was missing, something we could not name at first. It took us 10,000 years to understand what was happening. She paused, and her form flickered with old pain. We had stopped evolving. Our biology had reached perfection, and in that perfection we found our doom. Our cells no longer changed. Our bodies no longer adapted. We could not create new life that was different from what came before. Every child was a copy. Every generation was the same. And slowly, over time, we began to weaken. Did not understand everything she was saying, but he understood enough. Though for all their power and technology were stuck. They could not grow. They could not change. They were like a river that had stopped flowing. We tried everything, the Queen continued. We experimented with our own genetics. We studied other species from across the galaxies. We collected DNA from 1,000 different worlds. Nothing worked. Nothing could break the loop that trapped us. Our cells rejected everything foreign. They were too perfect to accept imperfection. She looked at, and in her shifting eyes he saw something that surprised him. Hope. And then your ship came to the Nebula. Remembered now. The Nebula, a routine stop. They had dumped waste containers there as they always did at that point in their route. Medical waste, food waste, broken equipment. Nothing important, nothing valuable. One of your crew members had a medical procedure, the Queen said. A small surgery, the removal of a growth from her body. The biological waste from that surgery was placed in a container, and you, Park, were the one who disposed of that container. His heart beat faster, he remembered. Lee had complained about a small lump on her side. The ship's doctor had removed it. A simple procedure, nothing serious, and yes, had processed the waste. He had checked the manifest, logged the container, and ejected it into space, just like he had done 1,000 times before. That container landed on a moon, the Queen said. A small, dead moon where we had built a research station. For 11 million years that station had watched and waited. We hoped that something might come, something that could save us, but nothing ever did. She raised one of her shifting hands, and suddenly the air between them filled with light. Images appeared, floating in the throne room like ghosts. Saw a barren moon, gray and lifeless. He saw a small station covered in alien machinery. He saw the waste container falling from the sky, crashing into the dust. Inside that container, the Queen said, was a single human cell, living tissue from your body. We did not expect it to survive. Space is cold and cruel. Radiation destroys organic matter. Nothing should have lived. The images changed. Saw the cell thousands of times. It was small and fragile, floating in the darkness of the station. But the cell survived. More than survived. It did something we had never seen before, something impossible. The cell on the screen began to move. It touched the alien equipment in the station, and instead of dying, instead of being rejected, it began to change. Watched as the human cell absorbed tiny pieces of technology. It wrapped around them, incorporated them, made them part of itself. And then it began to divide. One cell became two. Two became four. Four became eight. Your cell adapted, the Queen said. Her voice was hushed now, filled with wonder. It accepted foreign material and kept living. It changed itself to survive. It did what no cell has been able to do for 100,000 years. Stared at the images. He did not know what to say. He did not know what to think. We have studied 10,000 species, the Queen continued. We have searched every corner of every galaxy, and we have never found anything like you. Humans are weak. Your lives are short. Your bodies are full of flaws and mistakes. You get sick. You age. You die so quickly that to us, your entire existence is like a single breath. She moved closer to him and felt the weight of her presence, ancient and vast. But in those flaws we have found our salvation. Your imperfection is not a weakness. It is a gift. Your cells can accept change. They can adapt to anything. They can incorporate foreign elements and keep living. That is something the lost long ago. That is something we need to survive. His legs felt weak. He wanted to sit down, but there was no chair. So he just stood there trying to process what he was hearing. The cell came from Lee, the Queen said. But you are the one who placed it where it needed to be. You made the decision. You chose the coordinates. You followed your protocols, and in doing so, you saved an empire. She looked at him, and for the first time, her form became almost still. You asked why I summoned you, Park. Why I wanted to meet a man who counts boxes and checks lists. Now you know. You are not nobody. You are the most important human who has ever lived. Opened his mouth, but no words came out. In all his 34 years, he had never felt so small and so significant at the same time. He had been looking for a mistake, but there was no mistake. There was only a miracle. And he was the one who had made it happen. For a long time could not speak. The throne room was silent around him. The Queen waited, patient as a mountain, giving him time to understand what he had just learned. Finally found his voice. It came out rough and unsteady. What happens now? The Queen's form shifted, and something like a smile passed across her features. It was strange to see such a human expression on a being so alien. Now, she said, I make you an offer, not to you alone, but to all of humanity. You are simply the first to hear it. She gestured with one of her many hands, and the floating images changed again. Saw star maps, showing the vastness of space. He saw the 3 galaxies controlled by the Dominion. He saw the small, lonely dot that was Earth, far away in a distant arm of one small galaxy. Humans are young, the Queen said. Your species has been traveling among the stars for only a few hundred years. In that time, you have built colonies on a handful of worlds. You have created ships that crawl slowly between the stars. You are proud of what you have done, and you should be. But you do not understand how small you are. The images changed again. Saw other species, other empires, other powers scattered across the universe. Some were old and vast. Some were young and aggressive. All of them looked terrifying. There are forces in this galaxy that would destroy you without a thought, the Queen continued. Not because they hate you, not because you have done anything wrong, simply because you are weak and destroying weak things is easy. You have been lucky so far. Nobody has noticed you, but luck does not last forever. Felt cold. He had never thought about it that way. On the traveling between human colonies, the universe had seemed friendly. Empty, maybe, lonely sometimes, but not dangerous. Now he understood how wrong he had been. "I offer you protection," the Queen said. "The full support of the Dominion, our ships, our technology, our knowledge. No one would dare attack a species under our care. You would be safe. Your colonies would be safe. Your future would be safe." "In exchange for what?" asked. He was not a negotiator, he was not a diplomat, but even he knew that such gifts did not come free. "In exchange for cooperation," the Queen said. "We need to study human biology. We need to understand how your cells adapt and change. We need access to your genetic research, your medical knowledge, your scientists. We would conduct this research with full respect for your people. No one would be harmed or forced. We would pay fairly for everything we received. This would be a partnership, not a conquest." Thought about this. The offer seemed too good to be true. They were offering to protect all of humanity, to share their advanced technology, to treat humans as equals. And all they wanted in return was some medical research. "Why?" he asked. "Why would you give us so much for so little?" The Queen was silent for a moment. When she spoke again, her voice was softer. "Because what you offer is not little, it is everything. You are offering us the chance to live. You are offering us a future we thought we had lost. To you, human biology is ordinary, it is just the way you are. But to us, it is a miracle, a gift beyond price." She moved closer to him and her form became more solid, more defined. For just a moment, she almost looked human. "And there is another reason," she said. "In 11 million years of existence, we have conquered many species. We have ruled over countless worlds. We have been feared and worshipped and obeyed. But we have never had friends. We have never had equals. We have been alone at the top, looking down at the universe below." She reached out and something appeared in her hand. It was a pendant, small and crystalline, glowing with soft inner light. It looked like a tiny star trapped in glass. "Humans interest us," she said. "Your chaos, your imperfection, your strange, beautiful way of stumbling through the universe and surviving anyway. We want to know you, not as subjects, not as servants, as partners." She held out the pendant toward. "This is the seal of. It marks you as a friend of the Dominion. Any who sees this symbol will honor you and help you. It is given only to those who have served the Empire in great ways. In 11 million years, fewer than 100 beings have received it." Stared at the pendant. It was beautiful, but that was not what made his hands tremble as he reached for it. It was the weight of what it represented, the weight of being chosen, the weight of carrying something so important. "I am not a leader," he said. "I am not a diplomat. I cannot speak for all of humanity. I am just a cargo officer." "I know," the Queen said, "and I do not ask you to speak for anyone. Your leaders will negotiate the terms of our alliance. Your scientists will work with ours. Your diplomats will build the bridges between our peoples. But you, Park, will always be the one who started it all, the one who made it possible." She pressed the pendant into his hand. It was warm, almost alive. "Go home," she said. "Return to your ship. Continue your life. And when your people ask you why they have come to them, tell them the truth. Tell them that humans are special not because they are strong or smart or powerful. Tell them that humans are special because they are incomplete. And in that incompleteness lies the greatest gift in all the universe." Closed his fingers around the pendant. He could feel tears forming in his eyes, though he did not know why. "I will tell them," he said. The Queen's form rippled with something like warmth. "I know you will." 1 year later, Park stood at the observation deck of Earth's largest space station. Through the massive windows, he watched a sight that would have been unthinkable just 12 months ago. Ships floated alongside human vessels, their silver forms catching the light of the sun. Shuttles moved between them, carrying diplomats and scientists and ordinary people, building the first bridge between two very different worlds. The news had spread across every human colony. The oldest and most powerful empire in the known universe wanted an alliance with humanity, not a conquest, not a subjugation, a true partnership between equals. At first, nobody believed it. Politicians argued. Scientists demanded proof. Some people were excited while others were afraid. Change is always frightening, even when it brings good things. But slowly, over the months, the truth became clear. They were sincere. They really did want to work together. They really did see something valuable in the messy, chaotic, imperfect species called humanity. Had become famous, though he had never wanted fame. His face was on the news. His name was in the history books. People called him the bridge builder, the first friend, the man who saved the universe. He hated all of those names. He was still just. He still counted boxes in his head when he could not sleep. His old Lee had become even more famous than him. She was called the Miracle Woman, the source of hope, the mother of the Alliance. She handled it better than did. She had always been braver than him, more comfortable with attention. She had used her sudden fame to start a small restaurant on Mars Colony 3. She served traditional Korean food to humans and aliens alike. The ambassador had visited her restaurant 7 times. He said her spicy rice cakes were the finest thing he had ever tasted. Captain Sora was now Admiral Sora. She commanded the new joint fleet, human and ships working together. She still never smiled, but thought he saw something like peace in her eyes now. She had spent her whole life preparing for danger. Now, for the first time, she could imagine a future without war. And their old cargo ship sat in a museum on Earth. It was called a vessel of historical significance. Tourists came from all over to see the cargo bay where had once worked. They took pictures of his old desk, his old chair, his old computer where he had logged thousands of manifests. It felt strange, too, seeing his boring little life turned into an exhibit. But had not come to the space station to think about the past. He was here for the future. A young officer approached him. Her name was, and she was new to the service. She had bright eyes and an eager smile, the look of someone who believed the universe was full of wonderful things. She reminded of himself, a long time ago, before he had stopped believing in wonder. "Sir," she said, holding out there is a problem with the cargo manifest in Bay 7. Some medical supplies were logged twice. I thought you should know." Took thee and looked at it. It was a simple mistake, the kind that happened all the time. Easy to fix, easy to forget. Just another small error in the endless flow of boxes and lists and numbers. But did not forget anymore. Every box, every list, every small decision could matter. He had learned that lesson well. "Let us go fix it," he said. They walked together through the station, past windows that showed the stars and the ships and the future being built outside. Talked about her family, her dreams, her hopes for the new age of cooperation between humans and listened and nodded, offering advice when she asked for it. He still wore the pendant around his neck, hidden under his uniform. He touched it sometimes when he needed to remember. The seal of, given to fewer than 100 beings in 11 million years. It was warm against his skin, always warm, as if it contained a small piece of a star. They were learning to change now. Scientists from both species worked together, studying human cells, trying to understand the secret of adaptation. It would take time, maybe decades, maybe centuries, but the Queen had told that time was something they had plenty of, especially now that they had hope again. And humanity was learning too. They were learning that they were not alone in the universe. They were learning that their flaws were not weaknesses. They were learning that being incomplete was not a failure but a gift. The chaos that made them stumble also made them grow. The imperfection that made them weak also made them strong. Reached Bay 7 and looked at the cargo stacked in neat rows. Boxes of medical supplies, food, equipment, all the ordinary things that kept people alive among the stars. Nothing special, nothing important, just the quiet, essential work that nobody noticed. But noticed. He checked the manifest, found the error and fixed it. One box moved from one list to another, A small thing, a boring thing. But small things could change the universe, knew that better than anyone. He finished his work and stepped back. Through the window of the cargo bay, he could see the stars stretching out forever. Somewhere out there, they were building new research stations. Somewhere out there, human colonies were growing and spreading. Somewhere out there, the future was waiting, full of mysteries and wonders and miracles that nobody could predict. Park was not a hero. He was not special. He was just a man who counted boxes and checked lists. But sometimes that was enough. Sometimes that was everything.